Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Realm of Ori. In this video, we will continue with Volume 18, Chapter 3, Reminiscences of the Clowns, Part 3. If you haven't watched the previous video or chapter, you can find the link in the description below. Before we begin, this video contains light novel spoilers. If you do not want to be spoiled, do not watch it. And, if you will continue, an additional disclaimer notice. So without further ado, let's get to the video. As Kagali walked into the castle, she was struck by how grand it was. The castle she gave Clayman was a reminder that she was still not living as luxuriously as she had hoped. She had lived in a royal castle a long time ago, but this was so much better. It's awesome. Yes, of course. Veldanava-sama resides at this castle. Not expecting a reply, Kagali changed her mind about Zalario. He seems to be surprisingly well-spoken. While she thought about this, they got to where they were going. It was a room with two big culture tanks. It looked like a laboratory. One of the culture tanks was surrounded by 5 males and 5 women. In the middle of them, there was something that looked like a person. It looked like Vega when you looked at it more closely. A man spoke for the group and said hello. Zalario-sama, glad to see you again. This man's name was Dali's. Though technically phantoms had no gender, he was a trusted ally who had worked for Zalario as a man since the time of the original cherubs. Zalario gave him a light nod and told him what was going on. The plan is cancelled. Understood. Dali's did not ask why. He thought that everything Zalario said was true and that they should just do what he said. Because of this, the angelic ego was thought to be weak. They were therefore more susceptible to Vega's intrusion because of this. I gave you a name, but it might be meaningless. I'm sorry, sir. Am I to blame in any way? No, it's not your fault. I just expected too much. Despite his best efforts, Zalario did not anticipate that every outcome would be flawless. He was trying to figure out how to evaluate the results correctly and use them in the future. So, no matter what happened, he would not be affected by it emotionally. Dali's was worried that Zalario would be sad. So, even though he didn't want to, he did what Zalario said. He told Gnome and Byrne, who worked for him, to stop the incubator. Being on par with Dali's, Nice had no issues and enlisted the aid of Bem and Sun, 2 of her minions. Also, Dali's was a man, and Nice was a woman. Like Gnome, the others used to be throne angels, so they didn't have a clear gender. Zalario said, though, that they had recently gotten names, and their personalities had become more distinct. This made them unique, but it was still a work in progress. It looks like one of 3 Phantom Commanders, Cornu's subordinates, who had the same rank as Zalario, was taken over by a native of the area that was invaded and lost the initiative. It is thought that this was because of a weak ego, and as a result, only the angels who had been in charge before were given names. But many years had passed since then, and Zalario thought that even back then, the changes were so small that there was no chance of more growth. So, he was looking for people he could use to take over. I had believed that cultivating Vega's body would be a good idea, but the cells themselves were tainted with evil. In that case, the undead elves that were made are the only option. 9 of them were there. That was enough for the leaders in charge. Feldway, on the other hand, planned to request that Michael summon the army of angels, Armageddon, to increase his strength. Instead of calling forth innumerable angels, the strategy was to focus his force and build a number of seraphim pillars. That's why the undead elves exist. Even Dali's, who was close to Zalario, was only his second in command. The undead elf should have only been used for the seraphim, so that a large, unbreakable force could be put together. Oh well, there's no rush because we don't know how many pillars we can summon. Feldway and I will talk about this later. Zalario had been thinking about it and was about to leave. Then he heard the sound of glass breaking. The culture tank had been broken. Wait, you tore off my arm, and I'll never forgive you. I'll get it back from you. The moment the device was turned off, Vega awoke and started to move. And his aim was Gnome, whose cells had fused with Vega. Vega grabbed Gnome with his arm before anyone could stop him. Then the fusion started, and Vega took over Gnome. Oh, that's so tasty. My power is getting stronger. Vega was delighted. He could tell that the gnome guy he had eaten had a lot of magicules and had given him more power. Kukakakakaka. This guy is a good one. Now I can take any bastard I want. The climax of Vega ended as soon as he looked at Zalario. I've heard lots of things about you. You have the choice to fight here or join us. This question was asked of Vega, but he already knew the answer. Oh, I'm sorry. I was carried away. I'll follow you, of course. At this point, that level of filth was pretty shocking. Zalario wasn't surprised, because this kind of behavior was to be expected. He knew it and was okay with it. Losing Gnome was a shame, but it did help to make Vega stronger. For future battles, they didn't need an army, but they did need heroes. The stronger their companions were, the better. Also, Gnome had just lost his ego, which made him less useful as a pawn. In this case, it was better for him to join forces with Vega. Zalario was mean and cruel to the people who had worked for him for a long time, but that was just who he was. As long as it was Zalario's choice, no one else had a problem with it. Vega's outburst was ignored, and he was treated as one of them. Kagali couldn't help but feel disgusted as he watched the whole thing. Vega's behavior was horrible, but it was hard to figure out what kind of mind Zalario had to put up with it so easily. She couldn't figure out what Zalario was thinking because he didn't seem like Yuki. Yuki knew how dangerous Vega was and dealt with him well. On the other hand, Zalario probably doesn't even think Vega is dangerous. Does that make him that much smarter? Kagali thought that based on what was going on, she was right. Zalario didn't care about the Vega that was there at the time. Even the people who worked for him were not very useful. But this wasn't a sign of pride. It wasn't arrogance because Zalario was right about what was going on. Zalario's ability to understand things correctly was not arrogance. Kagali, on the other hand, had no idea what was going on and was left confused. Hey, Kagali, isn't it? And neither was Yuki like that. We've known each other for a long time, so let's get along. Vega saw Kagali, and she called out to her. There is no way that Vega can beat Kagali as it is now. In addition, the chances of Terra and Footman defeating Vega were around 50-50. Since Yuki still didn't have any choice, she thought it would be best to just follow the rules. Right, things have changed a lot for us, so let's keep getting along. Oh, yeah, so, where am I now? What's going on? They call it the Heavenly Star Palace. There doesn't seem to be a way out, so we'll have to listen to those people. I see. I don't need to run away, though. I'm sure they'll still need my help, so I'll just have fun with it. Kagali wanted to be as easygoing as Vega. Zalario didn't seem to like it, but no one knew what the individuals in control of Yuki wanted to do. Although Kagali was unsure, she believed that the dead birthday magic would be a strong suit for her and the others. First of all, a ceremony that needed tens of thousands of dead bodies was not something that could be done easily. We need to show them how useful we are. If things get really bad, we'll get by even if we have to lie to them. Kagali thought this to be true. After all this time, it was impossible for them to give up on their goals. She decided that now was the right time to give up, and she was ready to let go of her pride. And that determination would soon be put to the test. Both Michael and Feldway were back.